What do you need to start a restaurant business? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock. Let's talk about what do you need to start a restaurant business. I've brought the perfect person here. This is my wonderful, longtime, dear friend, Jonathan Dallin, and he is the perfect person to help you start a restaurant business. He's got the experience under his belt, and he started super young. I think he had his first, how old were you when you had your first restaurant?
I started operating my first restaurant at 23 and then owned my first restaurant at 25.
So let's talk about this. He started operating a restaurant at 23 years old, and at 25 years old, he already had his own restaurant. So if you're super young and you've got this limiting belief that you're like, I'm too young to start my own business, you're wrong. John proved you wrong. 25 years old, he had his restaurant. So we're gonna let him do most of the talking here. That's my goal. So he can help you guys shed some insight on what you're gonna need to start a business. And what's beautiful about John, he didn't just have a brick and mortar restaurant, he also had a food truck business in Hawaii. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear about all this. So John, why don't you tell us about what do the viewers need to start a restaurant business? I've given them a lot of pointers on general business, setting up their licensing and stuff, but
Sure.
What do they really need for specifically a restaurant business?
So specifically for a restaurant business, you're gonna need a lot of time and energy, and it's gonna take a lot of hours. I recall when I opened the restaurant, working day and night, daily. There were nights we slept in the office when we were building, and even when we were working, just working late nights, having to get up early and clean. It takes so much toward a restaurant. If you've heard anything about the restaurant business, it's one of the hardest businesses to operate.
Yeah, I hear a lot of success stories, but I hear more failure stories in the restaurant business. Is it true? It truly is one of the toughest businesses?
They say 80% of new restaurants fail.
Yeah.
Within their first year.
I mean, you're like me. You're a serial entrepreneur. We've been partners in business. We understand it. We're always looking for the latest and greatest and things like that. But what is it about the restaurant business that makes it so difficult?
I think some of the things that make it so difficult are just getting prepared to open and making the people happy and giving people what they want. Customer service. Without good customer service, how are you going to get those customers back? And then in addition to that, of course, what do you really need? You have to have great food. And then you have to be able to offer the people exactly what they want. A specific drink, a specific menu item, or even cooking for people that have certain allergies. So we got to make the people happy.
Like me, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's it. In the restaurant business, when you make people happy, you get return customers. You get people talking about your business.
So we've talked a lot about customer retention in previous videos. And if you haven't watched those previous videos, make sure you look on those customer retention videos, because I would think that in the restaurant business, the most difficult thing is to be consistent, right? Because let's talk about a fast food chain. If you're going to McDonald's, if you go get a filet of fish sandwich or a quarter pounder, whether you get it here in Kansas or you get it in Paris, France, right? We joked about the Big Mac, right? Love Big Mac in Paris and a Big Mac here in the United States. They taste the same, right? So there's that consistency, because customers, they have a high level of expectations when they're going to a restaurant. You don't want your gyro sandwich tasting completely different as it did the last time, right?
Yep.
And you did a lot of what? Tapas and things like that.
We were one of the first small plate restaurants here in Overland Park, Kansas. And it was very successful. We ran for 4 years. I ended up selling the business on a positive note because we got so busy operating another business of ours.
We buy gold!
Yep. But definitely consistency in your food. Standardized recipes. I mean, the owner, the boss, I was the executive chef of my business as well, and filled a lot of shoes. When you're not there operating and making sure those things are staying consistent, making your customers happy again, and having everything be standard and go out the same every time. There's a saying we say in the kitchen is make your first plate as good as your last plate every single day, no matter what, every shift.
It's all that consistency, right? You're looking for consistency. So I'd like to focus first on topic number one that John mentioned, because it falls right in line. You're hearing this from him now, so you have a second opinion. You've heard me say this in previous videos. is he was talking about you literally sometimes would have to sleep overnight in the office at your restaurant. I mean, he's living at the restaurant, right? And if you all remember, I talked about outworking the competition. That's exactly what I'm talking about, okay? When you talk about who succeeds and who doesn't, there's a reason that he was successful, because he was willing to outwork the competition, which is why I tell everybody, if you're not willing to do that, if you're a 40-hour-a-week, could you have survived working 40 hours a week?
Not even close. Not
even close. So if you're going to get into a restaurant and your goal is to work 40 hours a week, and you're the person that's supposed to be the owner, that's giving it the love and attention and TLC that it needs, you're probably going to go out of business. Now, there's a way, obviously, to structure it. Maybe you've got a lot of experience, right? This is your 10th restaurant, and you know how to delegate, you know how to hire staff, and you can just kind of monitor it, right? That's different. But we're talking about like a first-time restaurant owner. You're going to have to put in blood, sweat, and tears and work sometimes 6, 7 days, like 7 days a week sometimes. I mean,
almost every week for a long time in a restaurant,
right?
Especially if you're open every single day.
Right, and that's just to get it off the ground.
Right. In addition to what you're saying, one of the biggest things, like you said, it's not like opening your 10th restaurant. Your first business, your first restaurant requires all that time, but finances. The more money you can save, the more money you have in the bank to have that longevity. Because we all know, again, in the restaurant business, that first year is the toughest year.
So I want everybody to know this. It's funny that John just said savings, because in my 5 pillars of building a solid business foundation, one of the ones we talk about is saving. So John, again, this is not scripted. I want everybody to know when we're filming these videos, these are not scripted. And so John just touched on 2 huge things we've talked about previously: outworking the competition and saving. He just said it. He said, look, in the first year, it's going to be rough. So you've got to be pretty well funded, right?
Yeah, as for me going to college, learning all about the industry, working in the industry, wanting to be in the kitchen, be a chef, cooking pretty much my whole life. It's my passion, it's my heart. But having to learn and do everything else, the more shoes I could fill, especially in the beginning, the more money I could save. The more times I had a friend maybe help me use their truck to go get some supplies that we needed that we didn't have to pay for, or something as simple as me not paying an office manager to do paperwork. I stayed up and did it. So, all those items in the beginning, huge.
So that falls in the line of cutting expenses and keeping expenses low. Because what John's basically saying here is, rather than go out and spend all that money, having somebody renting a truck or whatever, he was able to be resourceful and call friends and family and say, hey, can I borrow your truck or whatever? And he was saving money along the way. And these are the things, as a business owner, as a first-time business owner for sure, you have to do to survive, because you're not going to have endless amounts of money unless you were, you had a trust fund, right? You got $1 million and, maybe you're just that person and you're opening up your first restaurant. Well, you're the exception to the rule. Congratulations. You've got a lot of money. You're well funded, but you're going to be up against people that are really fine-tuning their businesses and learning how to save money so that they can maximize their profits in the future. Absolutely. And ultimately, by making these decisions that you've just talked about, ultimately, what did that allow you to do in the future of your business? How much money, did you make, things like that?
Sure. It allowed us to start off with to have a good inventory. Good. Inventory is extremely expensive. You have to pay for your inventory in the food and hospitality industry up front. So if you need $20,000 worth of food that week, and again, another maybe $20,000 in liquor, beer, and wine, that's $40,000 just sitting. And then if you don't sell it, you're obviously not making any money. So
it spoils.
Yeah, your food can spoil. We did everything, of course, very fresh.
Right.
It's not like we were freezing a bunch of stuff and pulling it out as we need it. No, that wasn't the style. It was a much more upscale restaurant. And again, in the drink menu and those items were the same way. It was upscale. It wasn't like walking into a dive bar. So the different styles of a restaurant or bar or business of that nature do require other things and different things.
Right. So what I want everybody to understand here is the path. When you say, what do you need to start a business? You obviously know, hey, you need money, right? You're going to have to buy, correct me if I'm wrong, refrigerators, freezers, right?
We call it FF&E, furniture, fixture, and equipment.
Okay. So you're going to need a bunch of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, right? These are like the standards. Eventually, you're going to need staff, waiters and waitresses, maybe a host greeting people. Those are the basics. I don't think you're watching this video because you need that help. I think you're trying to understand what's the underlying things I need to possess. What are going to be my challenges? And what John shared with us in this video, at least, and what I could see if I was watching it for the first time, is you're going to need to be resilient. Even if it means, I mean, I don't know that that's something to brag about. Not everybody wants to, I mean, I thank you for your openness and to share, because not everybody wants to share the grit, right? The stuff that they had to sacrifice. I'll bet you none of your customers knew that you had to spend a night overnight in an office at your work just to, because you were working so hard, you fell asleep. I mean, that's a real story there. And that shows you that the people that become successful in their businesses are willing to basically throw down. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get through, because failure wasn't an option for you, right?
It was not an option. When you sign your name to that lease, you sign your name to that loan, you got to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Even if it means working 7 days a week and pulling whatever strings you got to do and calling in the favors, so to speak, and things like that. So let's recap. If I heard 3 solid takeaways from this video. You're going to have to work your butt off. I don't care if you're lazy, this isn't for you, right?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. So sorry, you got the wrong industry. You probably shouldn't start your own business. I hate to say it, the restaurant business is tough. He also talked about saving. Make sure before you get into this, you're well funded enough, right? So try to have your projections overshoot, right? I'd rather, if I was getting into a business, I would rather have too much money to start than not enough money, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
there were times when we definitely had to pinch. I mean, gosh, I remember when we first opened the restaurant, there were sometimes weeks that on weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was so slow, 1 or 2 tables as we're building business, and I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to make this successful?
That's painful, right? I mean, that struggle is a real struggle that gets in the pit of your stomach as a business owner, right? Nobody wants to experience that, but it's going to happen. We all go through tough times, right?
It's a lot different than being in that position. I remember when I was in college, of working in super nice restaurants and being a cook, being one of the line cooks there. But at the end of the day, I just got a paycheck. I wasn't worried about their labor cost or their food costs. Now when you're running the business either as a chef or a chef owner, you every single penny, I mean, seriously makes a difference when we're working in this industry. So
save. You got to be frugal in the beginning. Okay, I want to personally thank my friend John. Give me a fist bump, as always, for sharing some serious knowledge. Hopefully you got some huge takeaways and information. Obviously, if you have any comments, please comment below. We can get John to answer some future questions. We do plan on having him for future videos as well, so stay tuned. What I can't wait to talk to you about is the Hawaiian food truck and how the heck you went from Kansas to Hawaii and you set up a food truck. That's going to be great. And then let's kind of make the suspense build even more. How about the story of you working? Did you work for like a billionaire family on a yacht with a helicopter pad? Is that a real story?
A $60 million boat.
What?
Took a helicopter grocery shopping.
Who does that? This guy's had crazy good success in the restaurant business. So follow him. We're going to continue to deliver. And remember, in life and in business, it's never easy for anybody, is it?
No.
I mean, there's serious struggles up and down. And no matter how hard it gets, never give up. Push hard, keep pushing, and be the hustler.